Hello and welcome to another episode of Undercurrent. I'm Lucy Marchant and I'm your host. The Harry Hunter Rehabilitation Choir Group allows recovering addicts to come together and experience joy and healing by singing. Angela McDonald spent the day with the choir group and gives us a sneak peek into one of the rehearsals.
This is the Harry Hunter Centre, and it's called part of the Bridge program with the Salvation Army. And it's a 13-week program, and it's with people battling addiction.
Because in addiction, especially active addiction, you get caged. You know, you're really looking down the ground.
Well, I was actually a resident in the rehab about 5 years ago, and I started a little group then, and it went really well. It made us all feel good. And now 5 years later, I'm back at the rehab starting a choir there.
5, 6, 7. There's a dark and a troubled side of life.
To see all their happy faces and people start coming alive and coming out of their shell.
Have people loosen up too as we go on.
Lean on me. When you're strong, I'll be your friend.
This time around, I told myself, you know, I'm 45 years old, and you know, addiction. I don't really want to be going on with this. You know, it's not a nice way to live. And you know, asked me 8 weeks ago if I'd be singing in a choir, and be like, no way in the world. You know,
And I find it's really, you know, we might sing for an hour and you just forget everything else. You know, you leave your troubles at the door and you go, and everything else just goes away and we're just singing together.
Well, I'll graduate in 2 weeks, and I've been here for three months, and yeah, so I'm going really good. It just makes you happy every day, and I love music in general, so yeah.
Ready, and you can sing, and I can sing, so let's all sing together.
You know, I told myself, you know, that hey, I want to nail this thing. So it's not just about the classes and that. It's about learning to get out of your comfort zone and, you know, trying new things and things like that. So you know,
We can sing forever. Lift your voice.
I always feel really good. I drive home going, oh, it's so good. I'm so glad to be alive, you know. That was really fun.
Share a simple melody in some nasty weather. Lift your voice and pass the song along.
I'm Angela McDonald for Undercurrent.
Shark attacks are one of people's biggest fear when swimming in the ocean, but thanks to scientists at the University of Western Australia, Innovate Australia and Shark Attack Mitigation Systems, you can now vanish right in front of a shark's eyes. Journalist Laura takes a good look at the latest biomimicry technology.
Swimmers are being warned a monster white pointer shark could still be lurking in waters off North Stradbroke Island.
Harrowing scenes on a beach in Australia as paramedics try and revive a surfer who'd had both legs bitten off by a shark.
Governments around the world are at their wits' end. The only solution seems to be culling.
We're here on the West Australian coast, which is now the deadliest coast in the world.
With the help of the University of WA, we now know exactly what these big predatory sharks can see.
This is a very exciting time for innovation in Australia, and today we're learning how biomimicry can help us to save our lives in the water.
Biomimicry, of course, is learning from nature's technologies, and we're using biomimicry to instruct us and our work towards shark mitigation by learning from what we know about the sensory systems of sharks to develop two different things. The primary one I've talked about today is on the development of shark mitigation wetsuits.
Shark Attack Mitigation Systems is a West Australian company that was developed about 4 years ago. The suits we've developed in conjunction with University of Western Australia, and it's off the back of some research work that was previously undertaken by UWA, and then we've further advanced it and resourced it to get it to more of a commercial scale product. The designs are two primary designs that are all the result of our new knowledge of the visual systems of sharks.
We've got two basic designs. The first one is a camouflaged design, which is utilising the fact that we discovered at the University of Western Australia the fact that sharks are actually colourblind. They don't use colour to find prey, so they're interested in contrast, so hard, sort of solid silhouettes of animals. Great whites, we know, are ambush predators. They attack from below generally and use the silhouette of their prey against the backlight, and that's why we've developed this sort of suits to try to distract the shark, and so they can't pick out that silhouette. The second suit is the striped suit, which is quite the opposite to the camouflage suit. It's actually meant for the wearer to be identified at a particular distance, typically about 6 metres or so, and it's banded or striped. This suit provides a warning pattern for any shark that's coming in, given that these patterns are generally seen in nature as an unpleasant stimuli, even a poisonous animal, and generally most sharks would not eat a striped animal, given how venomous or poisonous they will be. So these two designs are now on the market, and SAMS is manufacturing those.
Could you please tell us about the ways you have tested these wetsuits to know their efficiency?
The experiments are undertaken by the team at UWA, and it's a paired designed trial where we compare traditional black neoprene with our designs. The trialling is obviously very scientific and uses some very high technology apparatus that's been developed by the university, and what that does is able to measure sharks' behaviour by their changes in speed, approach angles, and the way that they generally behave around the apparatus in the water. Whilst the testing will be ongoing, and it will take us probably many, many years to get a valid, scientifically valid sample size, certainly the early results were extremely positive, and all of the scientists that were involved were extremely surprised by the reaction. And at that point in time, obviously with the amount of deaths that are happening around the world, we were basically compelled to bring it to market a bit earlier than what we probably normally expected.
When a surfer goes to buy any of these wetsuits, which one should choose?
Our second design is a much more bolder design. It's designed for when you actually are on the surface of the water, where you're always going to be silhouetted against the sun. So that design is about doing two things. One, it's about being overtly seen. We're not in the food chain, so most of the time they attack is mistaken identity. They see us as something that we're not. So the stripe design makes you overtly seen, but the contrasted bandings also changes your body shape as well. So it breaks you up so you don't look like a seal or a demersal finfish or anything like that at the surface. Our cryptic suit, which is very much like a camouflage, and that's better suited for water users that are actually in the water column, so your scuba divers or skin divers and the like.
Where we can find these wetsuits?
Currently we're selling them directly online through a wholesaler called Radiator, who's a West Australian wetsuit company here, and we're also opening up other channels as well. We're in negotiations with some pretty large global brands at the moment, and we've just executed a licence agreement with Arena, the swimwear company, and they'll be releasing a triathlon and open water swimming suit next year that'll have our technology in it. So, if we save one life, we've done our job. And what's the alternative? The alternative is a black wetsuit, and certainly we know that sharks eat black wetsuits.
Laura Noble reporting from the Biomimicry Network for Undercurrent.
Australia is an increasingly ageing nation. It is also the 5th most obese population in the world. We need to hit the streets to find out what Aussies think about this.
Do you know that Australia ranks in the top 5 of countries with the highest number of obesity in the world? Today we asked the people of Perth if they know how this will have an effect on the country. With increasing obesity rates, do you think that life expectancy in Australia will fall in the future?
I think so, because obesity increases the risk of heart disease, so it's probably a health problem that the government might have to look out for.
You would think so, but we're living longer, they'll keep coming up with ways to, make people comfortable and keep them alive, I guess. Like you look at a mobility scooter, that's going to keep someone alive for a while.
It should, but with the increase in medicine and health, the improvement of the health system, it should also increase life expectancies.
Australian government claims that funds need to be set aside for ageing population. However, with high obesity and people dying at a younger age, do you think that this is still a problem for them?
I think still a lot of overweight people will reach old age, so there still should be adequate funding in regards to treating illnesses like Alzheimer's and dementia.
I think it's a good idea to put a higher tax on the fast food industry like they do with alcohol and things like that.
I know healthy food, for example, fruits, vegetables are really expensive, so if they can tax fast junk food and give discounts on healthy foods, then I think that will be a step forward as well.
Statistics have shown that income levels play a part in ensuring a healthier population. With the perspective of high unemployment rate in the future, do you think that it will affect obesity in the country?
There's no doubt that it costs more to eat healthy unless you're propagating your own like fruit and vegetables, which not everyone can do.
If you don't have money, you go McDonald's, you go Hungry Jack's, and obviously it's not very good for you. But if you want to eat healthy, it's quite expensive.
How do you think the government should step up to help the situation? Should they continue funding the aging population, or should they step up and help the younger population instead?
I think there needs to be a balance between the two in order so that both demographics can be looked out for.
I think it's a personal matter. Obesity, it's not something that you can solve as a general population. You just need to change these people's mindsets of how they live.
Start with the younger generation because, it's frightening what kids today eat and what they'll dictate and demand from their parents that they'll eat. So concentrate on them.
I'm Renida Azman reporting for Undercurrent.
Make sure you stick around for more stories after a short break. Welcome back to Undercurrent. The Landcare Group is a non-profit organisation that coordinates river restoration, bushland management and community action. Volunteers work together to clean bushland in Mount Nasura, south of Perth. Laura Bayomi with the report.
Armada Gosnell's Landcare is a not-for-profit group which works with volunteers, biodiversity and natural resources. Today we are at Mount Nasura in South Perth. Volunteers are cleaning bushland to maintain a healthy environment. Today you manage a work day to clean the bush and you are supported by volunteers. What are your two main goals?
Two main goals is to conduct, I suppose, environmental restoration work with volunteers, so getting them involved in practical work, and I suppose our other main goal is about educating the community, both locally and wider community, about environmental environmental issues, land care issues, so that I guess that raise awareness of some of those issues and how people can act to help, I guess, look after our natural environment.
And who are people who participate to your work day? And how did they know about your initiative?
We get school groups involved. So I think last year we had over 2,000 school kids helping us from over 20 odd different schools locally. And we also get corporate groups. We also support a lot of, there are smaller community groups that might have a particular area that they really try and look after. And then we also just get people from the general public who might rock up on one of our, say, a weekend work days where we might be doing planting in a certain spot, National Tree Day or something like that, getting involved with one of those sorts of days, and they just want to come down. I think a lot of people probably on social media now, so we've got a Facebook page, we use that. And also we have a mailing list of email contacts, so we use that as well.
That work day is one among others, so why is it important to get people involved in the protection of the land care?
Well, I think it's really important that people within our general community, that we all take responsibility for the natural areas around us, because these places, I guess, they face a lot of threats, particularly in urban areas, from, I guess, the way we live our lives. So, you know, we need to take responsibility for that and get involved with looking after our environment, our natural environments, the rivers and all those sorts of places, yeah.
And in your mind, are people aware enough?
I think some people are really, really aware, and I've noticed, particularly like the students from various schools and that, I think nowadays the education's really coming through the school systems, and it's really good. So you know, a lot of the that get involved, they are quite aware, and even adults, there are a lot of really aware adults. But I'd also say there's probably quite a lot of people that aren't as aware as maybe they could be, or as I would personally like them to be. So yeah, I think definitely we've got a lot of work to do with raising awareness in the wider community. Yep.
And Perth is one of the most biodiverse cities in the world. So over 1,500 plant species are found here. So what is the biggest danger for nature here?
In an urban area such as Perth, there's a wide variety of threats, I suppose, coming from the way we live our lives. So, you know, whether that's pollution coming from roads, so oils and stuff like that are coming out of cars and getting on the road and then washing through drains. There's also, you know, high loads of fertilisers and other nutrient sources coming from people's lawns or agricultural sort of areas, or yeah, even I mean, there's a range of ways nutrients can get into the river and places like that, or even bushlands. So that's probably one of the big things that we sort of tackle is nutrients getting into the waterways. That's the biggest threat, I think, for waterways. But I mean, there's a whole range of other issues, from land clearing, introduction of I suppose exotic plant and animal species that may adversely affect some of our native species, and that can cause extinction or even localised extinction of species in certain areas. And yeah, and I guess now we're sort of facing increasingly the threat of climate change, which people are more and more aware of, and that's having a lot of effects on our bushlands and our other natural environments, as well as the species that live in those areas.
This is Laura Bayumi for Undercurrent.
The Gay and Lesbian Singers of Western Australia are a choir group who sing in 4-part harmony. They welcome members from all colours of the sexuality and gender diversity rainbow. Angela McDonald reports.
It's Thursday night and I'm lucky here at the rehearsal for the Gay and Lesbian Choir of Western Australia. Family atmosphere, social environment, and everybody sharing and preparing for Sing for Health, a concert that's coming up in May. And here they are behind me, Gals WA singing. How are you preparing your choir for the concert in May?
Oh, in so many ways. So, I mean, we're working on the repertoire and fine-tuning, but we're also exploring our journeys within that, I suppose, and discussing it. A lot of songs, so it's finding our journey through each of those and looking at what triggers within us and feeling safe enough to do that and to then share. It's about sharing, I suppose.
And how important is it to have Gals WA?
Oh, so important. We need to have a place where people can be safe on every level, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually and on every level.
And the choir's growing?
Yeah, it's growing.
It's not just coming because you like singing, it's coming for see other people and make your life different 1 day a week. And what I really like here is coming and have the unconditional love and be not judged. So we're coming because this is such a good place to come every time. And now that I changed job and I finish like very late, sometimes I finish at 7:30, sometimes I finish at 8, I'm just looking forward every time to just jump in the car and come here straight away after work. So for me it's very important, this once a week.
Is that good for you?
Yes, I've been doing musical theatre since I was a child, and I think that being part of a choir now is a completely different experience, but being part of that choir, as my colleagues have said, is such a safe place for us here. And because we accept everyone whatever in whatever diversity or gender they are, whether they're gay, straight, or bisexual. We accept everyone, even if they're straight, really. And we also do not have any auditions on this choir, so it's more the passion of singing as opposed to the talent of singing or having that quality.
And what do you feel when you're on stage? What sort of buzz?
It's just a fantastic experience watching Claire, feeling her drawing us together as a group to produce the absolute best we can. And then when you see the reaction from the audience, it's just a really great feeling.
And would you recommend the community get more involved in singing?
And it builds community. It draws people together.
I'm Angela McDonald for Undercurrent.
And that's all we have time for on this week's episode of Undercurrent. I hope you enjoy the long weekend and all that the city has to offer. You can catch some international jazz performances in Perth this weekend. And make sure you head down to Lisbeth Quay on Monday for the Soto Music Festival, a free music festival that will be showcasing some of WA's best performers. Take care and we'll see you next week.